Santa's come in and things are looking up. Bank Pacific has rolled out Rudolph's favorite My Christmas loan with an annual percentage interest rate as low as 3.99% and up to $50,000. And with the new Bank Pacific contactless Visa debit card, you can have the flexibility of using your money when you want to, where you want to. My Christmas Loan contactless Visa debit card. Let's make Christmas merrier this year. Equal opportunity lender. Credit conditions apply. Merry Christmas from Bank Pacific.
Stores open in a few hours on what is traditionally the biggest shopping day of the year, but there is data to suggest the crowds could be smaller this year.
Google reveals search interest in Black Friday has declined during the pandemic. Adding search interest in Black Friday is down 30% in the U.S. this month so far compared to the same time period in 2020. According to the tech company, the top searched store for Black Friday over the last day in the U.S. is Best Buy, followed by Walmart, Target, and Kohl's. Searches for Sony's PlayStation 5 and the Xbox Series X, the top in-stock questions on the site over the past week. Kristen Goodwin, Fox News.
A research firm says shoppers will pay an average of 5 to 17% more for toys, clothing, appliances, and TVs this season. A week and a half after damaging floods in Washington state, forecasters are warning multiple weather events known as atmospheric rivers will be moving ashore over the Pacific Northwest over the next several days. Forecasters predicting up to 3 inches of rain in some of the areas hit by recent flooding. The National Weather Service says the heavy rain could last through Wednesday. Alabama's capital city could be in trouble for renaming a street.
Alabama's Attorney General says the city of Montgomery violated a state law when it removed the name of Confederate President Jefferson Davis from a street. Last month, Jeff Davis Avenue was renamed Fred D. Gray Avenue. Gray, who grew up on the street, was an attorney known for his work during the civil rights movement. Under state law, the removal or alteration of memorials or monuments that have stood for more than 40 years is forbidden. The state attorney general's office says the city must pay a $25,000 fine or face a lawsuit. The mayor of Montgomery says changing the name was the right thing to do. Pam Puso, Fox News.
And I'm Jack Callahan. This is Fox News.
When's the last time you looked at your homeowner's insurance?
A homeowner's policy protects much more than just your house. It also protects you against claims from someone being hurt on your property. If a visitor is injured at your place, how much are you covered for? The smart thing to do is get the answer today.
That's the Insurance Extra Point. Get out there and make something good happen today by calling Guahan Insurance Services at 475-1162 or visit us at the Camacho Landmark Center in Tamuning.
Come try Guam's original Chamorro restaurant with Pica's best 5 years running. Mezcla Chamorro Fusion Bistro. Experience Chef Peter's candied salmon over scallion coconut rice, octopus to naktak, Chamorro platter, and their award-winning gourmet hamburgers. Or if you're looking for something healthy, try their keto-friendly menu. Come and enjoy Mezcla's half-a-day service at their Hagåtña and Grand Plaza Tuman location. Call their Hagåtña location at 479-2652 for reservations.
Afre, my name is Kiona Rivera, student at the University of Guam and recent recipient of the G is Forgiving Scholarship. This holiday season, I'm encouraging our island community to support the G is Forgiving campaign. Your generous contribution not only support programs at the university, but also helps students like me reach our academic goals. For more information on how you can help shape the future leaders of our island, call the UOG Endowment Foundation at 671-735-2957 or visit their website at give.uog.edu.
Guam Auto Spot has the best selection in Buick, GMC, Mitsubishi, and used cars like the 2021 Mitsubishi Mirage starting at $127 per paycheck, 0 down. Call 671-478-AUTO to take a test drive or get pre-approved online at GuamAutospot.com.
Welcome to Tall Tales with Bob Klitzkie, the only show on talk radio where common sense is a lot more common. Phone lines are now open at 888-TALK. That's 888-8255. And now, The Point proudly brings you Tall Tales with Senator Bob Klitzkie.
A well-regulated militia being necessary to the security of a free state, the right of the people to keep and bear arms shall not be infringed. Did I make myself clear, Jose?
Absolutely, Crystal.
Yeah, well, I don't want to hear any arguing out there. I know I won't get any arguing out there in the international radio listening audience. There may be some uninformed folks that are not tailgaters that might not understand and might need perhaps some further education on the point, which I will more than gladly provide. But here we are, the last day of another week here on Tall Tales. A tough one for Jose and I. We're going to have to go into limbo for 70 straight hours. No Tall Tales, no tailgaters, no fun, just enduring rather than living. But we'll get through it. We always have in the past. So starting out here with Tall Tales today, we'll start right out with Zemi Ikani. I don't know what's happened to the Guam Daily Post. You know, it's between the Guam Daily Post and the Pacific Daily News. The Post had a huge lead, 255. They're up. Daily News up to 75 now, but the last couple of weeks it's been Daily News much more than the Post. And the Post seems just to have lost its verve for writing hard-hitting editorials. And you know what they're doing today, Jose?
Phoning it in.
Trash talk.
Boom.
Trash talk, yeah. Here's what they're saying. Governor Leon Guerrero's administration is pursuing a plan. I should stop right there. You know, this would put the governor in a more favorable light than she's been in since she was sworn into office. She's pursuing a plan which has been talked about in the government of Guam for years to somehow provide for a universal trash collection service, ensuring that every household, every office, every business, and all other entities can dispose of their solid waste properly could help rid the island of the unrelenting problem of illegal dumping of trash, from baby diapers to old couches to rusty appliances. These are eyesores and environmental and safety hazards that seem to go unabated. An island-wide trash collection service for households will go a long way towards encouraging people to stop the practice of disposing of their unwanted junk items on other people's property. Those who have gotten rid of their trash in the boonies, on the roadsides, and pretty much any place they think no one else can see them, shift the problem of cleaning up after their mess to others. Often, cleanup of illegally dumped trash will be left to well-meaning volunteers. How many times have we seen that?
But only once a year.
Yeah. Well, you know, back in the day when my wife and Joanne Bonine used to go out running all the time, they had a couple of stretches of the road that they kept clean by themselves, like between Paris Acres and the fire station in Jigo. And I walk that space quite frequently. It's just amazing, you know, the junk that people throw out of their cars. It's amazing. Those who have gotten rid of their trash in the boonies, on the roadsides, pretty much any place they can think, as you were. We have heard in prior public discussions that some members of our community don't have the means to pay for monthly trash collection service, or they just choose not to because it's not mandatory. This reality has prompted on and off discussions about providing trash collection service to anyone, and for the cost to be spread evenly among island residents without giving any household the option not to use the service. This administration wants to bridge the financial gap for families who can't afford current trash collection fees. The administration has been in talks with the Solid Waste Authority about what it would take and what kind of funding and funding source would be necessary to realize the goal of universal trash collection, the administration has stated. The governor has directed her team to come up with calculations for how much it would take to subsidize residential rates for families. We're going to have trash collection for everybody. And it's not just for those who are registered and can pay. You know, we wouldn't want to do that. You know, the idea is to have as many freebies as we possibly can, right? And we're going to roll that out. It's just a matter now of how much. And of course, our focus is going to be on how much amount of subsidy can we do to minimize the cost of trash collection, the governor said earlier this week. One of the reasons we're pretty persistent on this universal trash collection is we feel this is a way to deter and eliminate illegal dumping. I don't see it that way, Jose. I just don't see it at all. I'm going to tell this whole story again that I've told before because it illustrates the point so well. People don't appreciate things they get for nothing. And I'll tell this whole story again. You know, this family remodeled their bathroom. When they were all done, they had a used commode, a toilet, that was still in really good shape. But they bought a new toilet in their remodeled bathroom, so they had no use for the old commode. So they didn't want to throw it in the boonies or, you know, put it in the carport. So they put it out on the roadside with a sign on it, "Free toilet, help yourself." And that toilet sat out there for 10 days. It didn't move an inch. The next night, they put a sign on it that said, "Toilet for sale, $50. It was gone the next morning. People don't appreciate things they get for nothing. So if it's free trash collection, that will just mean not quite as many trips to the boonies. But once we've exceeded the freebie, well, you know, we can just go back to the way we used to do it before. The administration has had ample time to work on the details. The governor also announced in April that her administration had been working on a universal trash collection plan. Quote, "Our direction is to no rate increase and everybody's trash gets picked up. So that's the direction we're striving for," the governor said April 14 at an island-wide beautification task force meeting. The governor said at the time she was already working with Solid Waste Authority and EPA to look at costs, billing mechanisms, and enforcement of the fees. Discussion took place months ago about possibly utilizing the Power Authority and Water Works Authority customer payment system to assess a universal trash collection fee. There's a big gap between the number of customers who are paying for water compared with the number of customers who are paying for trash collection. This might be explained in part by the number of customers who rent apartment units and don't have individual trash collection accounts. But the disparity, approximately 16,000 customers have trash collection accounts, with 42,538 customers had water service accounts in 2019, could also indicate some households have foregone trash collection service. We hope this plan ultimately will be finalized and implemented. The reward of actually making it happen will be seen with a quick drive past any of the recurring illegal trash dumping sites. One day, a cleaner Guam may finally come true. It might be just a question of who made it happen at last. That's a pretty trashy editorial. That's all I got to say about it. And let's see. So I got somebody here that wants to talk trash with me. All right. Yeah, of course, it's another Joe. Tell me about trash, another Joe.
So that's the smack bullshit. Not only that, they're presuming whatever, that these are the reasons, the causes of it. But in the meantime, they're going to collect all your personal information, and they're going to figure out who isn't paying, and you're going to be punished for not paying in time, and then you can't predict who's going to arrive the island, be given a one-way ticket to Guam from God knows where, the States or some foreign country that has an agreement that we have no idea exactly what the agreement is. They're going to be here walking around homeless. What about the homeless? Are they going to be collecting money from them for trash collection?
I have a feeling that homeless people don't generate a whole lot of trash.
Well, they eat, right? And most food it's imported, it's in packages. So that means there must be some sort of trash.
Yeah, well, that's a little bit of trash, but, they're not dumping washing machines out in the boonies. They aren't responsible for a lot of dead couches stacked alongside the road. But I see your point, Joe.
In the meantime, everyone's personal information is collected. It's going to go online eventually. So it's, oh, wow, Mr. Klitzkie, you're behind in your trash payments. And there could be some error and who knows what and where. And then all of a sudden you're in trouble. God knows what. I'm just saying, that doesn't sound like free market, and if anything.
Well, let me tell you how they do it in Albuquerque, New Mexico, Joe. In Albuquerque, New Mexico, your trash collection is tied to your water. So when you pay your water bill, part of your water bill goes for the collection of trash. And if you don't pay your water bill, the city can place a lien against your property. So if there's a lien on your property and you don't pay off the debt that the lien secures, they can auction off your property to liquidate the debt. And of course, any buyer takes subject to that lien. So they don't have any trouble collecting for trash in Albuquerque, New Mexico. And
is it mandatory though?
I beg your pardon?
Is it mandatory? Trash fees?
If you have water. If you don't want to have water, then no, you don't have to. But I can't imagine anyone living in the city who doesn't have water.
Good point.
Yeah. And it works really well there, and I think it could probably work here. There are some folks, and I've been, running and walking out in the boonies. I see some houses that really don't have water. Maybe there's a garden hose to somebody in the same neighborhood and a long extension cord. It's pretty substandard undertaking, but that's a totally different problem. I think what we have to do here is we have to get people used to the idea that there's no such thing as a free lunch. And if we're going to live in villages and have the modern conveniences, then we can't just throw our junk out in the trash. If you went back 100 years, it wasn't much of a problem because there wasn't much of anything that people had that wasn't biodegradable. Any of the food products, biodegradable. Houses weren't made out of asbestos and things like that. But the old saying is that was then and this is now. So what do you think, Joe?
Well, since you're asking me, Cutback Tipback would be a good place to collect that money for trash. And also anyone who's homeless, if they claim to be an FSM citizen, right, they can go and they can have a specific place for recycling of trash. At the same time, we can bill any of these COFA countries to make sure that their citizens get financial assistance. Like, for example, for, let's say, food stamps or whatever it is, that it's offered to their citizens through their agreement with our national federal government. They can be collecting money at the same time they're throwing their trash, and they're declaring that they are homeless. So we know how many of these foreign citizens are living homeless. Then we can push for them to get for their government to pay for them to get housing, so they're not living out in the boonies somewhere.
We're going quite far afield from trash talk here, Joe.
I know. Thanks for your time. I'll keep listening.
All right. You let another Joe on the air, Before you know it, you're talking about compact
impact.
Yeah.
I got to get a filter for that.
Yeah.
Joe, you're going to make me have a filter.
No matter where you start, you wind up with compact impact. Kevin wants to talk trash. Good afternoon, Kevin.
Hi, I heard you were talking trash.
Yeah. You want to talk trash with us, Kevin?
Yeah, I'll keep it brief. I have two extreme differences. I grew up in New Jersey where it's organized crime, it's unions, and it's voters and the people that want to keep them employed. The other extreme is Japan, where they have a system where you pay residence tax based on the village or, in Tokyo's case, the ward that you live in. And they pick up your normal trash that are in clear bags so they can see that you're not throwing out weird stuff or, bulky trash. And then they have, you go to the local convenience store and you pay for bulk trash to be removed. They give you stamps that you can put on, and there's a catalog online where you can determine the weight and the dimensions, and you pay extra for that. And then you schedule it online. They come possibly 3 or 4 weeks later, depending on the size and their schedule, or you bring it to their solid waste like we have here.
Sounds interesting.
So that's all I had to add.
Well, I used to go through Japan all the time. I'd much rather go through Japan than through Honolulu on my way to the States, spending a night either direction and just getting out and walking around Tomasato town. And I got to hand it to the folks there. Those neighborhoods are so clean and so peaceful, and it's just so nice. And I think we could learn something from the Japanese. If they're handling their trash that way, I think we could learn something from them, Kevin.
There's two other things related to the trash that you can learn. They call trash gomi. Gomi is a Japanese word for trash. So when the good trash is going out, because a lot of people because their apartments are so small, they throw out perfectly good appliances. So they call you gomi hunter because you go hunting for street level bargains.
Okay.
And then the other side of that is okay, I lost my train of thought, but anyway, gomi hunter is somebody will get. There's neighborhood trucks that go through pickups with kind of cages around them that go around with loudspeakers asking you if you have anything to throw away, like appliances that they could probably repair and resell.
Yeah, well, it all sounds interesting. No matter what we do, it's got to be better than what we're doing right now.
Yeah, well, the only challenge I see coming up is how they do the contracting and who gets awarded the contracts for the sanitation.
Yeah, that's always a bone of contention, isn't it, Kevin?
Especially how many years are assigned to the contract, and if it goes past a certain administration's 8 years, possible 8 years.
Yeah. Okay, well, thanks for the helpful suggestions, Kevin. I'm sure government officials are paying attention.
Thank you.
All righty. Yeah, that's a pretty interesting idea, the way they do it in Japan. All right, so the Post is talking trash, and the Daily News is going to cop out. The government of Guam recently received federal funding to augment the police force, which is great news for the island, given a near perpetual shortage of officers to protect the island. It will mean more officers who can be put on patrol to keep our streets safe, and more police to investigate crimes and put criminals behind bars. But island leaders can't rely on federal funding to ensure that there are enough officers to adequately protect the island. Guam received $778,700 federal grant from the U.S. Department of Justice's Community-Oriented Policing Services program to hire more cops, Governor Leon Guerrero announced Monday. The Guam Police Department is one of more than 100 police departments across the nation to get a grant. Public safety has remained a top priority of my administration, the governor stated in a news release. With funding to hire more police officers, we can expect more village patrols and a heightened sense of security for our island. She added the island acquired more patrol vehicles. We will continue maximizing federal funding to expand safeguards for our community. Lieutenant Governor Josh Tenorio said in a release that the government of Guam also is directing more federal resources to support the police department. Federal funding is always welcome, especially if it helps keep our streets safe. But we simply can't count on federal dollars for such an integral service. The current U.S. administration has been supportive of the island's needs, making sure Guam hasn't been overlooked in terms of pandemic assistance and other federal programs. But that could change in the future. The Biden administration or a new administration or Congress might refocus priorities. We should always make the best use of federal grants and other funding, but our elected officials need to invest in the police with local funds. They need to have a solid, sensible plan for funding the police department in the future to ensure we have enough officers and they have the equipment they need to do their jobs. That's what's needed to make public safety a priority. And the broader point is this. The money coming in from the national government's great, but it's not going to last forever. And I'm afraid it's going to train us to develop a lot of really bad habits. Instead of economizing, trying to make our money go as far as we can, planning ahead, making best use of local funds, we'll just kind of sit back with our hands cupped in our laps, waiting for the federal bucks to drop in, and that will be our approach to funding everything. When the federal money stops, we're going to have a serious problem. I can see it coming. Okay, no blue stars today. We can go on to, let's take a break, Jose.
Hapaday! Konnichiwa!
Patois! Ciao! Enter for a chance to win the 76 Circle K World Cuisine Giveaway. Be one of 3 lucky winners to win a passport of free food from around the world at over 15 different local restaurants. Just stop by any 76 Circle K, purchase $35 or more in fuel to get an entry form. Drive by today and taste the world with 76 Circle K's World Cuisine Giveaway. Visit 76circlekguam.com for more details. Some conditions apply. Circle K, take it easy.
You've got a job to do. Having the right equipment for the job is critical, and East West Rental has the exact tools you need. Get it done faster with the right stuff, whether it's landscaping tools, concrete tools, lifts, trucks, lights, generators, trench boxes, welders, tents, tables, and chairs. They're here to help you tackle any project you're working on, big or small. Open Monday to Saturday, 7 to 5, closed Sundays. Find what you're looking for at East West Rental Center in Upper Tumon or call 646-1463.
Portions of the program brought to you by Nissan. Choose your favorite Nissan, and there's an abundance of Nissan automobiles to choose from. Rogues, Rogue Sports, Muranos, Kicks, Sentras, Leafs, Rogues, and then start talking about the deal they want to put together for you. Enjoy 0% APR, or your first 3 payments are on them. Just sign and drive away. Inventory limited, so don't wait. See Nissan Guam first. Wait, there's the fine print. I got to read the thing in fine print ease. On approved credit, 3 payments calculated, 5% APR, 60 months term, and based on the actual selling price of the vehicle only, not including down payment or any aftermarket products or accessories. See Nissan Guam for full details.
Now, more Tall Tales with Bob Klitzkie. Spitting truth like watermelon seeds at a summer picnic. Call now, 888-TALK, 888-8255.
Well, let me just cruise through the Facebook posts here and see what we got here. We got Pam Duvall wishing us a happy Thanksgiving, and same to you, Pam. And Sandra Regis is here, Margaret Eustachio, Sandra, let's see, Rico Blancafleur is here, and Lance Moritz. I wonder if Lance Moritz is from Switzerland. Bring an energy, he says, bring an energy waste incinerator to Guam. Works in Key West and Okinawa. Incentives can be made to drop off truckloads of trash. Has anyone else noticed how quickly our new Dan Dan dump keeps filling up? And he's got a good point, and I've said the same thing myself. You know, the whole idea of incineration, in the abstract at least, makes an awful lot of sense, because we really paid a lot of money for those cells down at Dan Dan. They fill up quickly. We get nothing out of them when they're filled. I don't know what we'll ever use the land for. We've got Mount Trashmore up in Ordit. It's one of the more significant terrain features in that part of the island. Whereas if we could burn the trash, dispose of the ash, etc., it seemed to me to be a lot more efficacious. Now, of course, the whole idea of trash got mixed up in this waste to energy idea. A gentleman named Wagdi Gurgis came to town, started a company named Guam Resource Recovery Partners, and the idea was that they would collect burnable trash, set it on fire, use the heat generated by the burning trash to make steam to run generators, and then sell the electricity, which would partially offset the cost of collecting the trash. This was about as popular as the slaughterhouse. Even those who thought it was a good idea thought it would be a good idea next to somebody else's house. Ken Leon Guerrero was one of the folks who was adamantly opposed to it for reasons that he might explain to us sometime. At the time, you know, even the environmental wackos were whacked out about it because they said that burning the trash would put a lot of toxic fumes into the air. Well, if that's the case, then it's not a good idea. And I don't purport to have really studied up on the question, but as the poster here said, they do it in Key West, they do it in Okinawa, and I suspect that there are ways that you could burn trash without creating air pollution. It's certainly something that we need to examine because, you know, one day the entire island is going to be one gigantic trash cell and there won't be any place for people to live.
A lot of people don't understand that once they put something in those bins, it doesn't disappear. And that goes for recycling, too. You know, recycling sounds really great on paper, and everyone gives a lot of laws and awards. But how it gets to where it needs to be recycled is a whole other story, which is why we don't collect glass here on Guam.
Yeah, glass has value. You can crush it and you can do things with it, but it's the utility of location comes into the story. Once upon a time, you could turn your papers in at a warehouse, down in Harmon, and they give you a little bit of, you know, like a quarter a bundle or something like that. Not anymore. Tin cans. When I was a kid, you could go out and make money by collecting. Even here on the island, you could collect beer cans and make money doing that. But recognizing the value of various kinds of trash and not taking into consideration the location of the trash will lead you to a wrong result every time. But I just can't get past the idea that we can't afford to keep digging holes down south to bury our trash. So maybe some forward-thinking citizen will pick up on the incineration and see where it goes. Okay, that's Lance Moritz. We've got Brad Wood on the line, and Sanfi Phillip. Most all COFA, I think he means COFA residents, pay tax like the rest of y'all and get nothing in return except Social Security, which really isn't saying much because Social Security is a tax. And unless you plan your death or disability correctly, you pay the tax all your life and you don't get anything back from it. So the best thing that can happen for us as far as Social Security is concerned is to have COFA immigrants, as you were COFA habitual residents, come here for 10 or 15 years, work, pay Social Security, and then leave because the money stays in the pool and they get nothing out of it. But it's kind of popular to beat up on the the COFA habitual residents that come here. As another Joe said, well, what about the homeless people and their trash? Maybe we should sell tickets to homeless people. If you want to be homeless, you got to have a ticket. You got to buy a new ticket every month. Lance also comes back and said, glass is still collected on base. Unfortunately, I see lots of non-glass in the containers. They used to collect metal, but that was continued as people kept throwing general trash in it.
Yeah, I believe the base has the only glass pulverizer on the island, which is a pretty cool machine.
Yeah. So, in some mainland cities, you have to really sort your trash. When I go to visit my sister, she won't let me take the trash out. I would require too much training to be able to handle it properly. Of course, my sister tells all her friends that she's an only child, so it kind of all fits together. Okay, let's see what we got on the card this afternoon. I've got the governor versus us. I still haven't gotten over the fact.
You could also capitalize the S, but that's another story.
That's true. And then I've got Governor Gutierrez versus Patrick Lujan. And Eileen Yamashita versus Reality. Bavacqua versus America. Now, you probably think you've seen this movie before. You probably aren't too far from wrong. The governor versus liberalism. I'm going to have to define liberalism when we get to this point. There was a time when liberalism was a good thing. And properly understood, liberalism still is a good thing. It's just that the left has made such a mess of the word that has now become a pejorative for right-thinking people. The left has made such a mess of it, they've left it behind and now want to use progressive instead. And then I've got a guilty verdict versus the League of Women Voters. And then we'll check with Jose if he's got more to say about the left versus Rittenhouse, Turley versus the media cartel, Turley versus Pencil Neck. I don't know if I'll ever get to repeat versus repeat, and I've repeated that more than once. Okay, starting out, the governor versus us. Gov Guam taking Black Friday holiday. So, this for a citizen, for a tax-paying citizen who has a job, who pays taxes, this is really an insult. All this high-flying language. We are taking this special time on Friday to recognize the hard work of our public servants. As more of our island continues to open, we look at this as a chance to resume a responsible return to business, etc. Among the blessings are our government workers who have dedicated their best of their abilities to continue serving our people throughout this unprecedented time in history of our island. What's the phrase I use there? Male bovine excrement. Takitoru is what we're talking about there. I get a kick out of this idea, they spent their whole life in public service. Well, didn't they get paid for the jobs they had? Oh, yeah, but they work for the government. That's public service. No, that's not public service. Being a troop leader over at the Boy Scouts or the Girl Scouts, maybe that's public service. Serving on the board at the chamber, maybe that's public service. Being an officer in the GFT, maybe that's public service. But having a job and getting paid for it, that's not public service. That's a job. Is what it amounts to. And to continually blow smoke at these government employees because they're government employees. It's what we used to call apple polishing when you did it for the teacher, right? It just makes no sense whatsoever, and it's an insult to folks who have jobs and have to work on Friday, the day after Thanksgiving, or had jobs and lost their jobs and had enjoyed the sight of government employees staying home and getting paid for staying home, and then this on top of that. It is literally adding, I would say, adding insult to injury, but it's really just adding insult to insult. Just another in a long list of insults that our governor has brought forth to us. You know, stopping us out on Marine Corps Drive because everybody knew that the Wuhan virus would not go past those roadblocks. The holidays without the paid holidays and the surprise holidays on Friday for no really good reason whatsoever. It's it's not good government. It's certainly not what I keep harping about. An effective, efficient government operating within the rule of law, providing basic government services on at least a break-even basis. Giving everybody a day off without pay, with pay doesn't get you close to breaking even. And it's not providing basic government services, and no government services today. And what you don't do today, you can't make up some other time. If you don't do it today, it just never gets done. So that's still on the calendar, and I might keep it on the calendar on Monday. And I'm probably going to keep it on the calendar in November just so we don't forget. Okay, next item on the card is the government of Guam versus Patrick Lujan. Now, this kind of takes me back to high school sports. You know, in most high schools, certainly where I went to high school, we had basketball team. We had interscholastic sports. So if you went out for basketball and you weren't cut from the squad, you made the basketball team, you made the varsity. You went to other towns and played against the teams from other towns. It was the varsity. There were other people that wanted to play basketball that didn't make the varsity, but still wanted to play. So we set up, the school officials set up basketball for them that was called intramurals. So kids would set up their own teams, intramural teams, and they would play, the whole league would be teams from our own school, intramural. And of course, that's two good Latin words, mural meaning wall, intra meaning within or inside of, intramural within the wall. That's what we have here on Tall Tales. A lot of our bouts here on Tall Tales are people outside the government fighting people inside the government. But we've got an intramural bout here, Governor Gutierrez versus Patrick Lujan, two members of the administration. Put them up. Put them up, Patrick. Put them up, Governor. And here we go. The other shoe has just dropped. This is a letter from Carl Gutierrez. A local landowner was forced to pay for a costly archaeological survey against his better judgment, is now rightly demanding reimbursement to the tune of nearly $16,000. This is Governor Gutierrez's letter telling us this. If this payment is not received forthwith from the Guam State Preservation Office, also known as the SHPO, one of the most powerful. You know, the SHPO, if we were playing poker, the SHPO would be a wild card. You know, be kind of like the Joker, or maybe if jacks are wild, it'd be a jack. This is exactly the kind of mess I've been fighting to clean up. This is the Governor Gutierrez talking. The kind of mess Governor Gutierrez has been fighting to clean up since March, when Governor Lulian Guerrero appointed me czar. Yeah, Nigovro Porosky. The people of Guam have suffered long enough under the weight of narrow opinion about what constitutes a, quote, permissible development. And I'm saying no mas. Oh, that's Roberto Duran. Governor saying no more. Case in point, for the past 2 years, local investor Chris Torres has simply wanted to clear his land and Talafofo to give it more value, and has been attempting to turn earth on this worthwhile project that whole time. But the Department of Parks and Rec's SHPO division has dragged its feet and refused to sign off on his permit application, even though every other permitting agency with jurisdiction over this pre-planned clearing has already done so. So, you know, it's interesting. You know, we talk in terms of private property and property rights and things like that, but do you really own your property when you can't do anything with it, where you can't even chop down Tongan unless you get 17 government officials to sign off on your paper?
Don't touch that snail.
Yeah. Just last July, I told Post readers, if the SHPO wants to know whatever ancient artifacts could be buried under residents' private property, then the SHPO should shoulder the high costs of archaeological digs, not home builders. This is where the first shoe hit the ground thudding. So the SHPO should fund it, but of course you really stop and think about that. Where, if the SHPO funded it, where would the money come from? Out of Patrick Lujan's piggy bank? No! Out of Patrick Lujan's Christmas club?
Nope.
No, it would come out of the Treasury. So we'd all be paying for it. Okay, let's take a short break here, and we'll come back to Gutierrez versus Patrick Lujan and finish this up maybe before the big halftime show.
Come try Guam's original Chamorro restaurant with Pica's best 5 years running. Mezcla Chamorro Fusion Bistro. Experience Chef Peter's candied salmon over scallion coconut rice, octopus to naktak, Chamorro platter, and their award-winning gourmet hamburgers. Or if you're looking for something healthy, try their keto-friendly menu. Come and enjoy Mezcla's half-a-day service at their Hagåtña and Grand Plaza Tuman location. Call their Hagåtña location at 479-2652 for reservations.
Listen to The Point anytime, anywhere on Odyssey. Odyssey is your new audio home for all the music, news, sports, and podcasts that matter to you. Find your favorite stations like The Point and discover more. Music stations, local and trusted news sources, sports talk and team coverage, plus today's biggest podcasts. Find it all on the Odyssey app. AUDACY.
Okay, so here we are picking up again with Gutierrez versus Patrick Lujan, and the governor says, let me see if I can find that again. That same soundbite, so to speak. In the same edition of my Guam strategy column, here's what I said. Dear SHPO, you order it, you pay for it. I went on to list the litany of high costs that are already making home construction and small business development unaffordable, at a time when our island is in desperate need of economic recovery, etc. So, and I suggested that forcing pricey busywork and exorbitant surveys down the throats of home builders and mom-and-pop shops was adding insult to injury and throwing a wet blanket on economic development. The mounting frustration has since crescendoed and is now coming home to roost. Boy, that's what, about 6 metaphors in 2 sentences? The mixed metaphor police are going to get you on that one, Governor. So let's stop and deconstruct that now. What the governor is saying is that if the SHPO wants to know whatever ancient artifacts could be buried under residents' private property, then the SHPO should shoulder the high cost of archaeological digs. So if the SHPO wants to know what archaeological artifacts are buried on military property, then the SHPO should fill. No. That wouldn't work, would it? Because the job of the SHPO is to make military construction as difficult as possible and to provide more reasons for Protehe Latexan and the environmental wackos to have rallies outside the front gate of Camp Blas. We all know that. So it's not the SHPO to give a hard time to private landowners. The SHPO should concentrate on the military. And if the SHPO wants to archaeological digs on private property, the SHPO should pay for it. But of course, we know what that really means is that we should pay for it. The taxpayer should pay for it. So I would ask, first of all, is all of this fixation with archaeological relics really that necessary? How much money should we have to spend on that before we can build anything on the island? I don't know the answer. That's not a rhetorical question. I really don't understand why we are so fixated on such things when we know it costs, even the former governor knows it costs people a lot of money, and it has a retarding effect on the government, on our economy. The recent incident involving the reimbursement demand letter from Mr. Torres' letter, Joseph Rosano, lends a credence to waves of complaints over the interagency permit delays in Guam's construction industry. This situation in the jungles of, let me see if I can pronounce it the way we're supposed to pronounce it according to the new orthography, Talofo, reached the boiling point last summer, and thus my current public vetting of the facts at hand. On behalf of Mr. Torres and his company, Wesco, Attorney Rosano sent a standing letter to DPR spelling out legal reasons why the SHPO's archaeologists have been in violation of the law whenever they've made private landowners pay for the surveys. In short, DPR's enabling statute as it relates to historical preservation and approval of permits is 21 GCA Chapter 76. Section 76511 grants DPR oversight over clearing and grading permits, but this statute applies to developments by the government and not private parties. The lots are not government land, and therefore this section does not apply. Rosano had also asked the Department of Public Works in writing to amend Wesco's application by removing the extra legal requirement for DPR's approval. There's simply no statutory authority granted by the legislature for DPR's approval of the application. Consequently, it was error for DPW to require DPR's approval. Assuming a deference to the enforcing authority, I am informed that it was only after the Attorney General's office had reviewed Rosano's pleading on behalf of Torres that DPR signed off on Mr. Torres clearing and grading permits. Be that as it may, although DPR Director Roque Alcantara, formerly known as the human vacuum cleaner, Roque used to inhabit the hot corner, one of the best third basemen in the Guam Major League. Roque Alcantara, DPR Director Vince Ariola had both been amenable to signing the permit approval. DPR's SHPO division had not. So Alcantara and Ariola said fine, but then along comes the SHPO. Who has the more power, the Director of Public Works or the Director of Parks and Recreation? Or could I have a drum roll here, Jose? The SHPO. Bear in mind, I describe only one offending situation among many suffered at the hands of the SHPO. Such intransigence has infuriated private developers in every municipality of Guam and must now come to an expedient and irreversible end. Yeah. Our governor gave me a job to do, and I intend to do it, making the permitting process fairer and more efficient for all. First and foremost, to protect the constitutional property rights of home builders and small businesses everywhere. Then to warmly welcome direct investment and advance the development of major projects that benefit all who call Guam home and those who love to visit our beautiful tropical island paradise. We've made meaningful progress in terms of securing several permitting agencies' commitment to following the spirit and letter of the law. But until state-of-the-art digital tracking system, let's take a break here for the big halftime show, and we'll come back to the SHPO right after halftime if he doesn't require a permit for the game to go on.
The Point is KUSG, Hagåtña, Guam, 93.3 FM and 104.3 HD3.
A new variant, new restrictions. I'm Jack Callahan, Fox News. A mutated form of the coronavirus reported in several African nations, said to resist vaccines and spread more easily. It's led to some new travel restrictions. Britain's Health Minister Sajid Javid.
We will be suspending all flights from 6 southern African countries, and we were adding those countries to the travel red list.
But South Africa's foreign minister says the decision to restrict travel seems to have been rushed, and he'll ask London to reconsider Israel issuing a similar travel ban. Wisconsin, still reeling from last weekend's attack on a Christmas parade in Waukesha that left 6 people dead, has been hit with another holiday crash.
9 people have been hurt in north central Wisconsin when a vehicle rear-ended an Amish buggy in what police call a highway speeds. It happened Wednesday afternoon in the town of Little Black. The Taylor County Sheriff's Department says 10 people were in the buggy as it headed north on a county road. 8 of the 9 people injured had significant injuries and were taken to hospitals. 35-year-old Skylar Opplet of Medford is being held in the Taylor County Jail on suspicion of operating under the influence of a controlled substance.
Fox's John Saucier, a Thanksgiving homecoming in New York City Thursday for a wounded police officer.
Less than 16 hours after being shot in the arm, rookie cop Alejandra Jacobs waved at her fellow officers outside St. Barnabas Hospital. Jacobs' partner, meanwhile, Officer Robert Holmes, is still recovering from his gunshot wounds. NYPD Chief of Department Rodney Harrison praising both officers for their heroism and fearlessness.
This is what we do in NYPD. We're the bravest of the brave, and we'll make sure we continue to fight.
The outrage, though, came from PBA President Pat Lynch, who says the city and the state needs to do a reset when it comes to bail reform laws.
That's reporter Richard Giacobas of Fox 5 in New York. Mayor Bill de Blasio says guns are to blame for the shootings. America is listening to Fox News.
When's the last time you looked at your homeowner's insurance?
We buy a homeowner's policy and never give it another thought until something happens. Life brings changes, and our coverage needs can change. The smart thing to do is get the answers and level up our insurance to make sure we're totally protected.
That's the Insurance Extra Point. Get out there and make something good happen today by calling Guahan Insurance Services at 475-1162 or visit us at the Camacho Landmark Center in Tamuning.
Come try Guam's original Chamorro restaurant with Pica's Best 5 years running. Mezcla Chamorro Fusion Bistro. Experience Chef Peter's candied salmon over scallion coconut rice, octopus to naktak, Chamorro platter, and their award-winning gourmet hamburgers. Or if you're looking for something healthy, try their keto-friendly menu. Come and enjoy Mezcla's half-a-day service at their Hagåtña and Grand Plaza Tuman location. Call their Hagåtña location at 479-2652 for reservations.
The first family continuing their holiday vacation off the East Coast.
Spending Thanksgiving on Nantucket, the Commander-in-Chief and First Lady making a stop at Coast Guard Station Brant Point, where they dialed into a virtual call with service members from all 6 military branches to give thanks.
People wonder what America is. They look and they see them.
President Biden's island holiday marks a return to a 45-year tradition, only broken a few times, including after the death of his son Beau and amid the pandemic last year.
Fox's Jackie Heinrich reports the president and the First Lady will take part in a tree lighting ceremony on Nantucket Friday. The family of Georgia murder victim Ahmaud Arbery finding reason to give thanks on Thursday.
We got a chance to speak with his mother and ask her what it's like knowing that 3 men will be held accountable in her son's death.
I think that Ahmaud deserves the last word. Ahmaud was actually hunted down like an animal.
Now, Arbery's mother, Wanda Cooper Jones, says people often forget her family went 74 days before there were any arrests in this case. She told us there was a relief hearing the verdict that all 3 defendants were found guilty of murder. Wanda Cooper Jones also says she believes her son was looking down on them when the jury's decision came in, smiling then and smiling now, resting in peace.
Fox's Jeff Paul, a California first responder, could be fired over his response to a vaccine mandate memo.
An unnamed firefighter is apparently not a fan of vaccine mandates in Los Angeles. He had a cheeky response after being served a non-compliance letter from the fire department. The firefighter pulled down his pants, wiped his butt with it before leaving it on the ground. The incident allegedly occurred at Fire Station 69 in Pacific Palisades. It's unclear what punishment he'll face, but one official called it a fireable offense. Tom Graham, Fox News.
Coal mine tragedy in Russia. A methane gas explosion and fires left 52 miners dead in Siberia. I'm Jack Callahan. This is Fox News.
Santa's come in and things are looking up. Bank Pacific has rolled out Rudolph's favorite My Christmas loan with an annual percentage interest rate as low as 3.99% and up to $50,000. And with the new Bank Pacific contactless Visa debit card, you can have the flexibility of using your money when you want to, where you want to. My Christmas Loan contactless Visa debit card. Let's make Christmas merrier this year. Equal opportunity lender. Credit conditions apply. Merry Christmas from Bank Pacific.
Hey, let's go to Tango Theaters and watch a movie.
No way, I'm broke. How am I gonna buy snacks?
They have a combo special for the whole month of November called the G's for Giving Combo Specials. You can choose from 2 combos for just $13.75. G Combo 1 with a drink, popcorn, and candy, or G Combo 2 with a drink, hot dog, and chips.
Wow, okay, that sounds good.
A portion of the proceeds will be donated to the UOG Endowment Foundations for scholarships and programs.
Cool, it'll be my treat. I'll buy 2 combos.
Visit Tango Theaters and grab yourself a G Combo special during the whole month of November.
Need to finish the job or start one the right way? Get the right stuff at East West Rental Center. You can switch to easy mode using industrial strength equipment. With years of experience helping builders, East West Rental gives you exactly what you need. Tools for landscaping, concrete, lifts, trucks, tables, tents, chairs, water blasters, excavators, forklifts, air compressors, and more. Call East West Rental Center at 646-1463 or visit them in Upper Tumont. Open Monday to Saturday from 7 to 5, Sundays 8 to 5.
Guam Auto Spot has the best selection in Buick, GMC, Mitsubishi, and used cars like the 2021 Mitsubishi Mirage starting at $127 per paycheck. 0 down. Call 671-478-AUTO to take a test drive or get pre-approved online at guamautospot.com.
So I have this mental image here. We're back on Governor Carl Gutierrez versus Patrick Lujan. I have this mental image of the governor driving up in front of the Department of Parks and Recreation, getting out with a six-shooter strapped to his belt, saying, "Come on out, Patrick," calling Patrick Lujan out for a duel. Fight it out. There you go. The governor goes on to say, but until the state-of-the-art digital tracking system with a common interface shared by all agencies replaces paper application forms and rubber stamps, the process will remain too antiquated to keep Guam competitive among the top tier of sponsors and lenders seeking investment-friendly destinations in which to grow their capital. Absolutely right. We talk about, well, you know, we've got to grow the economy. And this is the kind of stuff we need to do. We need to make it very easy for people to do business with the government of Guam. Imagine yourself having flown in here early this week because you want to do some business with the government of Guam. You have to get some permits and things like that. So you say, well, I can't do anything on Thursday because it's a holiday everywhere. I know that. But by gosh, bright and early Friday morning, I'll be out of those government Wait, whoa. You mean I can't do anything until Monday?
Denied.
Yeah. It's just a mindset that just got to change if we're ever going to get anywhere. And the governor has put his finger on it. We need a digital tracking system, so we don't have to be carrying pieces of paper from one agency to another so someone can stamp it with his rubber stamp. The governor goes on to say, thankfully, the word from Director Areola is that DPW is very close to implementing a workable online permit processing platform. Good deal. You know, one of the real success stories of the government of Guam that I'm aware of is the Department of Land Management. 40 years ago, maybe even not that long ago, the Department of Land Management was almost like an antique shop. If you wanted to look at some land records, there were books that were literally 2.5 feet by 2.5, these gigantic books that, you know, with all kinds of inscriptions in them, and it was just really hard to do. It was a really special skill to go to the Department of Land Management and do title research. It's all automated now. It's 21st century. I'm going to blame Chris Duenas until I can find somebody else to blame for it. So these things can be done, you know, like the way we have streamlined our process of issuing new tags for licenses and things like that. It can be done, but it doesn't get done by accident. So the governor says, my sanguine hope is that with increasingly efficient issuance of license and permits in Guam, the dozen-plus departments and agencies now directly involved in this process will soon be able to staff up with all the qualified personnel they need to keep licensing and permitting apace with the flow of construction demand. In turn, I anticipate the gradual reduction of associated development costs as materials and services pour into our market and as supply vendors make up in sales volume what they might otherwise lose if their unit pricing was lower while goods are still scarce. Until these changes take effective hold across the board, Destination Guam can offer the construction industry little more than a lick and a promise in the local licensing and permitting process, and will keep kissing too many investors, developers, and builders goodbye. A fair warning to those not following the law. Chris Torres is just one person whom you don't want to mess with when the law is on his side. Expect a class action lawsuit from all those people the SHPO has forced to spend time and money jumping through one insatiable hoop after another. My understanding is that this suit may stretch back over 10 years of alleged SHPO overreach and may go after officials personally. Wow. The SHPO. And here we thought that, being the SHPO was kind of like being the Wizard of Oz without the little man behind the curtain. So much power, so much authority. Remember when Carlotta Leon Guerrero was a SHPO, and she wouldn't release that information. Wow, I mean, it's just so much power. So this is something you don't see every day, where a member of administration takes after another member of the administration. I hope we see more of it. And I just have to say, good for you, Governor Gutierrez. This is the kind of bold action that we need. I didn't say bolt action. I said bold action that we need to get our government functioning so that it services the public, not members of the government, and not the egos of people like the SHPO. So good going, Governor.
It remains to be seen if the governor in Guadalupe at the moment defends SHPO as she did so when they were being criticized when Carla was, what was she substituting?
She filled in for Patrick,
yeah.
when Patrick was on active duty. However, you remember Linda Uggan?
Oh, yeah.
Linda Uggan got the heave-ho, and the governor didn't come to her defense. So perhaps the SHPO is although powerful, is in a precarious position. Yeah, don't make sure you take good care of your National Guard uniforms, Patrick. You may need them. Okay. Some interesting stuff going on here in Facebook. You're involved in some of it, Jose.
Uh-oh.
Let me see here. Lance talks about glass being connected on base, and Brad Wood says honk honk to the only child, Jose. What's that about?
Brad keeps tally on when we use the horn.
Ah.
Yeah, he's very good at that. So I missed the honk honk.
Oh, okay. And then Jose said it would be weird to honk myself. It was weird to type that. In other words, can you use the horn when you say something that's facetious yourself?
It would be appropriate, but no.
Yeah. And then, let's see, Jose Martinez, the people of Guam have suffered long enough, is right up there with other tired, overused phrases like, I humbly ask for your vote. Yeah. Jose Martinez, a firefighter, wipes his butt on a letter of reprimand from the fire station number 69, right?
There was a news story.
Yeah, I saw it, yeah.
Yeah, and it was just kind of really comical, everything, including the station number.
Yeah.
It's a number that's often mocked.
Exactly, yeah. Just when you thought you'd seen everything, if you live long enough, you're liable to see something more. And then Jose, in his jocular fashion, says, was his name Seymour? Yeah. And then Pam Duvall chimes in with a Clint Eastwood type response and then says, Biba Carl Gutierrez. Okay, well, we've got a touching story coming up next year. Aline Yamashita, we are blessed on Guam. Blessed Thanksgiving. Well, life has been whack. The blessings abound. I'm going to come back to the punchline last year. She says we're blessed with spectacular rainbows, sunsets, and sunrises. We're blessed with choice. I don't know what she means by that.
Obviously, the studio.
Yeah, okay, choice broadcasting. Good call, Eileen.
It's the obvious.
Yeah, we thank all who have fought for that life of choice. We thank their families for their sacrifice. We appreciate DOCOMO, which honors veterans by identifying parking slots for them. We have a law not widely upheld that states that out of respect, veterans may go to the front of the line. I didn't know that. We thank United Airlines for keeping us as a hub. While many determine that our numbers are too small to merit investment, United upholds that we are worthy. We thank businesses like ERC and Home Depot for decor and trees to help us twinkle the merry during Christmas. We thank Dr. Nathaniel Berg and Dr. Robert Leon Guerrero for their leadership during this contentious time. We are grateful that they're focused on what is data-driven with a hopeful eye on community health. Also in that circle is Dr. Tom Shea. From athletics to parks, Shea contributes to our future beyond birthing over 8,800 babies. We are blessed that he and doctors like Dr. Alexandra Leon Guerrero and Dr. Jerry Castro are practicing here. We thank nurses and medical technicians. We thank GPD and GFD and pray for their safety as they keep ours. We're thankful for training opportunities. In the 1990s, Connie Guerrero and Peter Eclovea did an incredible job in alternative learning paths, which would have ensured that community prospects began in medical school. Regardless of policy shifts and huge training investments, the ALP's program fizzled. I guess we're not so thankful for that. Yet we thank teachers like Connie and Peter for their tireless work in building futures. We thank teachers like Nevis Flores and Michelle Agugui, who insist that students with special needs can succeed. Their voices make the difference. We thank people for smiling. There was a profound outpouring of love for Audie Arroyo. The memories by friends and families had you smiling even through tears. As Sandy and Carlotta shared, Audie was respectful, fun, genuinely nice. As Eric and Maria shared, their dad's love cut through absence and his calling spirit flourishes. As Raina led the rosary, Audie's unconditional forever love rebounded back to him. Audie would thank John, Therese, Patty, Cindy for being the best family ever and ask them to carry on the Camacho area trademarks of laughter, joy, acceptance, and brilliance. And as John's poetic eulogy asked for forgiveness as he cried, we smiled with gratitude for a Guam family that sparkles with togetherness, love, and appreciation for everything good. Their story merits a Pulitzer Prize for family. As you celebrate Thanksgiving, what makes your family smile? Now, I saved the beginning of the story for last because the title of this item on the card is Yamashita versus Reality. And here's the part that I'm going to tell you about. Aline Yamashita says, we have skirted bad weather, Santa Maria and Camelin has kept a watchful hug around us. Remember when Our Lady of Cameron was removed from the official holiday list in 2002? Typhoon Pengsanghua whipped us with winds gusting at 290 miles per hour on December 8. Our Lady of Cameron was then reinstated as a holiday. You know, it's a beautiful story. It's very touching. There's only one thing wrong with it. That's not true. That did not happen. What did happen was that Senator Antonio Pinko introduced a bill to pare down the number of holidays that we celebrated here on Guam. We had another one of our fiscal crunches. He cut some of the holidays out and said that if a holiday falls on Sunday, it falls on Sunday. Come to work on Monday. Poor fella is probably spinning in his grave today, you know, given his idea that if it ain't a holiday, you got to come to work. So his bill went on the floor. One of the items on the floor was the Our Lady of Cameron Day. It didn't stay with the bill very long. Here is the bill that passed. It was Public Law 26-157. And if you look at Section 5 of that bill, you find a list of Guam holidays: Memorial Day, Independence Day, Liberation Day, Labor Day, All Souls Day, Veterans Day, Thanksgiving, Our Lady of Cameron Day, and Christmas, December 25th. And this bill, the bill that, you know, if any bill were going to take Cameron Day out of the calendar, it would have been this one. This bill became law on December 15, a whole week after Cameron Day. So no, the Cameron Day was never removed from the calendar, was never replaced. The Typhoon Pengsanghua was on December 8. I think you could maybe chalk it up to coincidence, not something that the legislature did or didn't do. But it's a beautiful story, and I'm sure that Michael Lind would appreciate this. I've heard it so many times. Yeah, you know, they took Cameron Day out of the calendar. We had a bad typhoon, man. They put Cameron. No, it just never happened.
You just applied as a Facebook fact checker, didn't you?
Yeah.
That's the story that Senator Yamashita wrote is the one I've always heard.
Oh, yeah.
But the real truth doesn't sound so quote-unquote sexy anymore.
It's not so dramatic.
Not dramatic
Not
anymore.
dramatic at all.
Oh, man.
Yeah.
It sounds good, though.
It does.
Because 2002, December 8th fell on a Sunday. So the holiday wasn't removed. It was just recognized on the day it was supposed to be recognized.
Well, the law didn't change it until the week after that.
Oh, so 2002 was when the law was changed, December 15th.
December 15th. So
nothing happened.
So nothing unusual happened on December 8, 2002.
So December 8th was still celebrated on December 9th.
Exactly.
Oh, man.
Yeah, exactly. But it's such a nice story, you know, and I suppose I'm kind of in line for the trophy of the neighborhood grouch who tells the little kids there's no such thing as Santa Claus. It's all humbug, kids. You know, spoiling this this wonderful illusion.
Yeah. It is a cool story to tell, though.
Yeah, it is.
That's wrong.
Yeah, it's the only flaw in the story. It just never happened. Other than that, it's a great story. Okay, let's see. A little early for a seventh inning stretch. Let's check with Michael Bavacqua. And Michael Bavacqua, as in his column, you know, his column this week, Bavacqua, decolonization, not anti-American. And he starts out, is decolonization anti-American? or does supporting Guam's decolonization mean you're being anti-American? Well, I got to stop right there and take issue with that first sentence. Guam is not decolonizing, Michael. No one is attempting to decolonize Guam. Go back and look at the title of the commission that you serve on. It's Chamorro Self-Determination. I debunked that quite some time ago. It is not about decolonizing Guam. It's something special for one group of people who live on the island, the decolonization. The self-determination of Chamorros. And I'll get to it, but we need to examine that. Let's say that we ask Congress for the permission to have a vote where only Chamorros vote. And Chamorros are asked questions about future political status. And a vast majority of Chamorros say, we want things to stay the way they are. What do we do then? You're going to get decolonized whether you want it or not. But it isn't, we're not talking decolonization here. We're talking Chamorro self-determination. So does supporting Guam's decolonization mean you're anti-American? How about does supporting separatists separating Chamorros from the United States political family? Is that anti-American? The question is one I often consider. Each week I get a fair amount of angry and usually misinformed messages from people who feel that decolonization is anti-American. That is, if we had decolonization. If you were led to this article via Facebook, you may have had to wade through a flood of those types of comments to get here. Despite the occasional vitriol from these types of perspectives, they do always make me laugh. Well, that's good to know. After all, on the surface of things, how can decolonization be against the principles of the United States when it's literally the first political principle that gave birth to the United States as a nation? But the idea of things being, that's just an oversimplification. If you study American colonial history, what the colonists wanted, they said, just give us the rights of Englishmen and we'll be happy. We don't have to be set up a separate country apart from the British, from Britain. Just let us have the rights of Englishmen. I think you could probably translate that here on Guam, just give us the rights of Americans, which, of course, everybody living on Guam has. Okay, and he goes on to say, but the idea of things being, quote, anti-American as a way of silencing people on island is something that has been here for decades. When island leaders in the 1940s, such as Francisco Baza, Leon Guerrero, and B.J. Bordallo spoke out about what they saw as being abuses of power by the Navy, they were labeled communists and anti-American. And again, I don't purport to know everything about the history of Guam in the 1940s, but this is the first time I've ever heard of B.J. Bordallo being labeled as a communist. Or F.B. Leon Guerrero for the same matter. Those two guys were the ones that fought for the Organic Act, even before the war. The same happened to members of activist groups like the Organization of People for Indigenous Rights and Nacion Chamorro in the 80s and 90s. Members of these groups were regularly referred to as radicals, anti-American, and even dangerous to society for speaking the truth of Chamorro rights, the impact of the military's use of Guam, and other issues. Members of the community up until today who seek to educate the island about some of the problems with our current political status, who point out hypocrisies or points at which the U.S. falls short of its ideals, also get saddled with the problematic label of being anti-American. You know, it seems to me, Bavakwa, if you're really true to your rap, you should wear that like a badge. You know, you don't want to be part of the United States. You want Guam to be an independent country, separate and apart from the United States. And it's interesting that the way you go about it is to use this government that was established by what you call the colonizer to do it. He goes on, what's funny is that you can still be appreciative of the way U.S. support has benefited Guam, but this does not prevent some from asserting that by pointing out problems with the U.S. or its policies, you have now become a dreaded anti-American. The term anti-American is used in hyperbolic ways that often don't match in any way the reality of the situation. It's deployed to make it seem like people who are being critical of the U.S. or certain policies are being driven by hate as opposed to reason or desires for justice or fairness. Should we play that Hope Cristobal? Should we play the Hope Cristobal video again?
I'm just beside myself right now.
Yeah. It's you need a reality check here, Michael. If you avoid that type of exaggerated rhetoric, you can see that there is nothing inherent in decolonization that would make it anti-American. Decolonization is a concept and a process that has emerged in response to empires and imperial ages. It is meant to be something that addresses the exploitive and problematic relationships that came about because of conquest and colonization. You know, like what the United States did to the rest of the Mariana Islands, the way the United States colonized Saipan, Rota, Tinian, that was just criminal. They just went out and forced them to become territories of the United States against their will. They hated every minute of it. They want to get out as fast as they can. Bavakwa goes on to say, nearly all people in the world agree today that colonization was wrong and is wrong. All people that climb on your soapbox. I didn't hear anybody in Hong Kong say that. Or places like Bermuda, the British Virgin Islands, some of the British Caribbean islands, where there's Gibraltar, Gibraltar voted they don't want to become part of Spain. They want to stay a British colony. And for a lot of these British colonies, their strength is the fact that they are British colonies. I don't think anybody in Hong Kong wanted British colonial rule to end. So, you can oversimplify like this, but it doesn't necessarily mean it's persuasive. He goes on to say, today there are very few places left that can be referred to as formal colonies, Guam being one of them. The truth is that decolonization is only anti-American to the extent that it is against American policies that allow the U.S. to continue to hold colonies. And this is why decolonization is hardly anti-American, but is something that derived from criticism of the U.S. and its policies, which can only help it live up to its ideals. Well, at least he didn't pick on George Tweed this time. Yeah. I suppose that some people are taken in by what amounts to the critical race theory tactics that Bavakwa uses week in, week out on the Commission for Chamorro Self-Determination, which he wants everyone to think is decolonization. And as I've explained before, if Guam is a colony, I'm as interested in it as anybody else. I live in a colony. And so I should have some interest in the decolonization of Guam, and I can tell you it's not happening. No one is doing it. Okay, let's see if we can decolonize a couple of maybe first base at Wrigley Field. What do you think, Jose?
As we celebrate this holiday season, we reflect on the hardships of the past 2 years and remain grateful for the family and friends who share our journey and lighten our burdens. The team at Security Title is proud of the work we do to support ourselves and our families, to serve and care for our customers, and to give back to our community. May this season of joy and the new year bring happiness, good health, and prosperity to you and yours. Merry Christmas from all of us at Security Title.
Fuel up today with the new $8 gasolina meal. 2 all-beef Nathan's hot dogs, a big bag of chips, regular size M&Ms, and a 16-ounce gasolina energy drink. The brand new drink in a black can that brings a burst of energy. Drive in now and fire up your day with the $8 gasolina meal. Promo is only available at your favorite Circle K Guam locations while supplies last. Circle K, take it easy.
Portions of the program brought to you by Nissan. Choose your favorite Nissan, and there's an abundance of Nissan automobiles to choose from. Rogues, Rogue Sports, Muranos, Kicks, Sentras, Leafs, Rogues, and then start talking about the deal they want to put together for you. Enjoy 0% APR, or your first 3 payments are on them. Just sign and drive away. Inventory limited, so don't wait. See Nissan Guam first. Wait, there's the fine print. I got to read the thing in fine print ease. On approved credit, 3 payments calculated, 5% APR, 60 months term, and based on the actual selling price of the vehicle only, not including down payment or any aftermarket products or accessories. See Nissan Guam for full details.
Seventh inning stretch here at Wrigley Field in Chicago. Good day for baseball, not so hot. Not so hot. Not a very good metaphor there. Not so cold. Okay, 7th inning stretch, Chicago. Next item on the card is Governor Leon Guerrero versus liberalism. Now, liberalism, if we're talking classic liberalism, is a word that has a nice connotation. It means the things that conservatives think are great. Freedom of speech, free markets, stable currency, an enlightened population, etc. Liberalism was a good thing until the left got a hold of it and corrupted it so bad that they don't even like to use it anymore. It's become almost a pejorative. But I've got an article here. Wuhan virus made democracies more authoritarian and authoritarian regimes even worse. The Wuhan virus pandemic is contributing, and see if any of this kind of rings home, see if it sounds familiar. The Wuhan virus pandemic is contributing to a significant decline in democratic values across the globe, as many countries have taken aggressive and authoritarian steps to attempt to curb the virus. If you haven't been living under a rock for the past 2 years, that's probably not much of a surprise. Still, a new report from the International Institute for Democracy and Electoral Assistance, a global nonprofit based in Sweden, offers a comprehensive look at the worrying trend of democratic erosion, a trend that has been helped along by the pandemic even though its roots go deeper. The world is becoming more authoritarian. The trend predates the COVID-19 pandemic, of course, but governmental response to the virus has made things worse. A number of democratic countries, the report specifically mentions the United States in this section, have implemented Wuhan virus measures, quote, that were disproportionate, illegal, indefinite, or unconnected to the nature of the emergency. Does that sound familiar? Let me read the list again. Disproportionate, illegal, indefinite, or unconnected to the nature of the emergency. Things like roadblocks, And the one that happened just recently, you know, you couldn't dine in a restaurant unless you had been vaccinated. Well, let's put it this way. The rules were such that the only way you could dine in a restaurant would be if you had had the first Wuhan virus vaccination. So I talked about this yesterday. So if I wanted to go to Touré for breakfast on Saturday morning, which I do, and I hadn't been vaccinated, I couldn't go inside. But then the rules were changed so that if I had had the first vaccination, I could go inside. So I could get vaccinated at 5 o'clock on Friday afternoon, show up at Touré at 07 the next morning, and I'm fine. I've had that first vaccination. Did this have anything at all to do with disease prevention?
Zero.
It's a classic case of disproportionate, indefinite, and unconnected to the nature of the emergency. It's just a totalitarian measure to force people to do what the governor wanted them to do. Just like she set up the roadblocks out on Marine Corps Drive just to show folks who was boss. This article goes on to say, the last 2 years have indeed been littered with examples of previously unheard of government powers on display in the U.S. That includes everything from statewide lockdowns in which governors decreed which businesses were essential. Sounds familiar? Even which parts of which stores you could go to, because some of the things that stores were selling were not essential. So you could only go into a store to buy the essential stuff. Governors decreed which businesses were essential to the Centers for Disease Control and Prevention, with the backing of both the Trump and Biden administrations, making it nearly impossible for property owners to evict deadbeat tenants. It took until this month for the U.S. to reopen its border with Canada for supposedly non-essential travel, even though there was probably no good justification for closing the border in the first place. Meanwhile, some public health officials in America are wish-casting for even more aggressive restrictions. Rochelle Walensky, director of the CDC, recently praised the really strict lockdowns deployed by China, a country that no healthy democracy should be using as a model for good policy making. But while Wuhan virus has been the acute cause of much democratic backsliding in the past 2 years, the IDEA report indicates a more insidious threat that lurks behind the pandemic. The rise of illiberal and populist parties in the last decade is a key explanatory factor in the democratic backsliding and decline, the report states. Those parties seek to obtain power so they can dismantle checks on government authority, including freedom of expression and policies meant to protect minority rights. Yeah, so sounds kind of familiar, doesn't it? Okay, we have to go to Churchill Downs. I've got Kevin back, and he wants to talk on international investors in Guam's infrastructure or lack thereof. Good going. Yeah, that's a good subject, Kevin. So we'll head for Churchill Downs, and then we'll let Kevin back on the merry-go-round.
Come try Guam's original Chamorro restaurant with Pica's Best 5 years running. Mezcla Chamorro Fusion Bistro. Experience Chef Peter's candied salmon over scallion coconut rice, octopus tenactac, Chamorro platter, and their award-winning gourmet hamburgers. Or if you're looking for something healthy, try their keto-friendly menu. Come and enjoy Mezcla's half-a-day service at their Hagåtña and Grand Plaza Tumon location. Call their Hagåtña location at 479-2652 for reservations.
greetings.
Hapude, konnichiwa,
Patois. Ciao. Enter for a chance to win the 76 Circle K World Cuisine Giveaway. Be one of 3 lucky winners to win a passport of free food from around the world at over 15 different local restaurants. Just stop by any 76 Circle K, purchase $35 or more in fuel to get an entry form. Drive by today and taste the world with 76 Circle K's World Cuisine Giveaway. Visit 76circlekguam.com for more details. Some conditions apply. Circle K, take it easy.
Here we are, Churchill Downs, the home stretch, and another week of Tall Tales. Jose and I have got about 14 minutes until we turn into pumpkins. So let's see what Kevin can tell us about international investors in Guam's infrastructure or lack thereof. Go for it, Kevin.
Hello, Reader.
Yes, I'm here.
Okay, so let's talk about data centers. I heard Phil Flores talk on various radio stations about getting financial companies to move their operations from Hong Kong, et cetera, to Guam. As someone who's an IT person who's worked for data centers and financial companies and management consultants, I could say if they ever did a due diligence study, they'd be very happy about. They have at least 11 fiber optic landing points here that are protected by the U.S. military. However, power is very expensive here. Getting fuel here is very limited, and structurally, there are not many buildings for them to move into. There is a standards organization called the Uptime Institute that does a tiering level between 1 and 4, 0 if you count for nothing, that goes for reliability and ability to recover from a disaster. And part of that is refueling facilities, also seismic. So, for example, Japan, a lot of their data centers are built on reclaimed land, so they have to drill down through several sedimentary layers to establish their foundations. Guam doesn't have major earthquakes compared to Japan, but it is still on the same fault line. So if they ever had to deal with a due diligence survey from a management consulting company, I think it would run into some issues. Another issue is with financial markets. There's something called low latency trading. Colt is one of the leaders there. It used to be KBH, owned by Fidelity. And if you are 5 milliseconds later than your competitor, you will get fined many millions of dollars per instance. So I guess that was a lot all at once. But the point is,
could I interrupt you? Could I interrupt for just a second? Wouldn't our location here at the junction of all these undersea cables reduce latency for those transactions, or?
Yes, if you could account for the off-base lack of power infrastructure and also roads. Look at the roads. There's one circle around the island with 2 roads to go across. I think even 10 years ago when they had floods near Polaris Point, people would have to turn around, go all the way around the island and enter Big Navy.
But the fact that we have the 11 cables coming in here would reduce the digital latency, correct?
Yeah, it's a starting point, but also look at the companies that own the local telcos. It's mainly foreign companies, Japan, Korea, etc., Philippines, that own as much as they possibly can without exceeding FCC requirements. So non-U.S., for example, for the telcos, non-U.S. citizens cannot enter certain areas to do maintenance work, but they own the infrastructure.
I see. So if you had the power to fix things, how would you make Guam more attractive to off-island investors?
If I was Gov Guam, rather than pump everything into a hospital on unstable land where there's some issues with contracting, I would build some IT cities to attract developers from various countries, also Philippines, for example, where we have a lot of, most of our talent is from to begin with, and build it from a perspective where it is already approved to be a Tier 4 facility when investors want to move in.
Okay, and let the earnings from these new industries fund the new hospital, and I suspect, right, Kevin?
I think having these facilities available would. They talked about bond ratings for GPA going up to BBB. I think having these facilities available would put Guam at A minus to begin with.
Mm-hmm.
So if you add it all together, and they're also working, GPA is working on moving off of these brown smoke producing facilities in Cabarrus. But have you seen a plan for that? I haven't.
No.
So we're taking them at their word, and I trust them implicitly. But however, typically, especially for telecoms, it's a 30-year investment, and they invest based on bonds, for example, for like. So if you use Moore's law, if you know Moore's law.
No.
Moore's law is that your computing ability will double, triple over.
Oh, okay, yeah, and the price goes down, right?
It's slowing down. Moore's law is because we're going into quantum computing.
Yeah.
But I think a similar thing applies to any infrastructure where you could look at. You're talking about these solar panels. Solar panels now are 10 times better than solar panels 5 years ago. So if you did a 30-year investment on solar panels 5 years ago, that was a loser for you.
Okay.
And I think that's what we're looking at now as well, is we're struggling to get these solar farms in place. By the time they are in place, I don't think it's a 30-year investment compared to telecoms.
I understand. Okay, Kevin, you've given us a lot to think about here. Are you in one of these industries yourself?
I guess I have a foot in a few of those.
How long have you been on the island?
Off and on 12 years.
Okay. Well, I'm glad to hear that you're a tailgater and willing to contribute to the international knowledge base of tailgaters here. So thanks for calling, Kevin.
All right. Have a good weekend.
See you next week. Very interesting. Okay, so we got about 6 more minutes till we finish up another week here on Tall Tales. Next item on the card is guilty verdict versus League of Women's Voters. And this article talks about the Ahmaud Arbery verdict. We've had 2 really high-tension jury trials here in the last week. We had the Rittenhouse jury trial in Kenosha and the Ahmaud Arbery jury trial, the murder of Ahmaud Arbery, in Brunswick, Georgia. We've talked a great deal about Kyle Rittenhouse and the left's abhorrence of the fact that he could be found not guilty in that case, making so many arguments that his shooting of those 3 white guys was clearly racism and he should have been a guilty verdict. The sanity that we brought to that whole discussion is this, that when you're talking about a criminal trial, you're talking about justice in the individual case. You're not talking about broad sociological trends. You're not talking about widely understood reform movements, etc. You're talking about a defendant and what he did or didn't do. Excuse me, what they did or didn't. One defendant? Can it be one defendant and refer to him as they?
Well, we do know his. No, we don't know his identity descriptors.
Kyle Rittenhouse?
Yeah.
We think maybe he might have been a male, right?
Yeah, I think so.
But we shouldn't jump to conclusions.
Well, that's what they say.
Right. Yeah. So a criminal trial is about what a person did or didn't do with or without the appropriate state of mind. And it can't solve a large societal problem. It can perhaps be the victim of a large societal problem. So when the not guilty verdict came in, half the country said, yeah, justice triumphed. The guy was just defending himself. That these rioters came in and were tearing apart a town. He attempted to help people protect their property from the rioters. People tried to kill him, and he defended himself. Other folks said, you know, he crossed state lines with an assault weapon, and he went looking for trouble in Kenosha. And he went in there and he killed 2 people and wounded another for no good reason. It's clearly racism. And, of course, racism for the left means this. If there is a riot, which they would refer to as a demonstration, and they weigh the riot or demonstration as righteous, then if you support it, you are righteous. If you oppose it, you are wrong, no matter what or how. So because Kyle Rittenhouse didn't support the riot in Kenosha, he was wrong, and there was no reason, no way that the left wanted to see him get off not guilty. The other big trial was for the murder of a man named Ahmaud Arbery, and the people that killed him were Travis McMichael, Gregory McNichol, and William Bryan. 3 white guys in Brunswick, Georgia. And this is what the trial showed, that that Arbery was a jogger, which makes him a pretty good guy in my book, just to start with, right? He's jogging down this street in Glencoe, Georgia, and the 3 white guys are in a pickup truck. They chase him down. He keeps running, which I can understand. They get out of the truck, and one of the guys shoots him with a shotgun. And their defense is, well, in Georgia at that time, we had this citizen's arrest law. And we could arrest a citizen, and, you know, there's a house that's under construction, and we saw him inside that house that was under construction. So we just wanted to talk to him, but he wouldn't stop. So we had to make him stop, and in the process, he grabbed for the shotgun. And what else could we do but defend ourselves? I mean, it's pretty bad.
There was another connecting element to this. It was also videotaped.
Yeah, it was. One of the 3 guys videotaped it. I suppose to show to his grandchildren, right? Something to be proud of. Okay, well, we'll come back to this on Monday. Jose and I will tough it out. A couple of days with no tall tales. Have a nice weekend. Think of Jose and I and our suffering. We'll see you at 1600 on Monday.
The Point is KUSG, Hagåtña, Guam, 93.3 FM and 104.3 HD3.
The organization meets today to consider giving a name to a new strain of the coronavirus found in South Africa.
For now, the new variant is known as B11529, and one of the biggest concerns about it is a high number of mutations. That means its spike protein is very different from the original virus the vaccines are based on, and it could be even more transmissible than Delta, though there isn't enough data yet to know. The variant is suspected of fueling South Africa's recent spike in cases. They had been down to about 200 new infections per day. That jumped to more than 1,200 on Wednesday. Wednesday and more than 2,400 Thursday. Britain is already banning flights from South Africa and 5 other African nations beginning Friday.
Fox's Lisa Brady. Israel halting flights from those 6 countries as well, and the European Union now considering a similar travel ban. In the U.S., more resistance to forced vaccinations.
With numerous lawsuits pending over vaccine mandates from groups representing teachers, airline workers, law enforcement officers, and firefighters, it is certainly arguable that there's a growing resistance to being compelled to take the shot, with thousands of Americans now willing to fight and or walk away from their jobs to preserve their bodily autonomy. In fact, Texas, Louisiana, Mississippi, South Carolina, and Utah are among the more than half of all U.S. states filing or joining lawsuits in opposition to the federal rule, which would require businesses with more than 100 employees to enforce vaccine mandates.
Fox's Kevin Cork. Spending the holiday on Nantucket, President Biden offering recorded holiday greetings yesterday.
You know, as we gather together again, our table and our hearts are full of grace and gratitude for all those we love. And as Commander-in-Chief, I'm especially grateful to our service members and their families for the sacrifices to our nation.
America is listening to Fox News.
Connect to Fox News Audio on the Fox News app. Listen to hear your favorite hosts like Brian Kilmeade, Jimmy Fallon, and Guy Benson standing up for what's right, live and via podcast. Just click listen, then swipe right and hear the latest news updates on your time. And scroll down to hear the latest podcasts from Fox News. And it's even easier to listen in the car with Apple CarPlay and Android Auto. Get programming alerts and notifications. Fox News Audio is on the Fox News app. The voices America trusts. Download it now. From the Fox News Podcasts Network.
I'm Ben Domenech, publisher of The Federalist, and I'm inviting you to join a new conversation with the smartest thinkers out there about the country and where we're going. It's the Ben Domenech Podcast. You can subscribe now on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, FoxNewsPodcast.com, or wherever you download your podcasts. This new show will feature deep dive interviews with newsmakers and some of your favorite Fox News analysts. I hope you'll join me. Subscribe to the Ben Domenech Podcast.
Subscribe and listen now by going to FoxNewsPodcasts.com.
Black Friday has arrived. Historically, the year's busiest shopping day could be challenging this year.
Store owners across the nation telling Fox that they've struggled to hire enough seasonal workers to meet bargain-seeking holiday shoppers' demands. They have another concern as well, that their stores will be crowded with unprotected and unvaccinated customers as the nation continues to struggle with COVID cases. Demand for products is high this year, but supply